Good day, mate. 40 here. I was just thinking, if you're going to be a live streamer commenting on the news, then you can't help but be a sort of guru. Right? So if you have a tiny audience, then you're a tiny guru. But it's like when Charles Barkley, the NBA player, said, I don't want to be a role model, I'm not a role model. Sports stars shouldn't be role models. Well, guess what? We're all role models to someone. And if you're a live streamer, even if you have 3 people watching live, you're a role model in all likelihood to someone in some area of the life. I think all of us are role models to someone, and all live streamers and bloggers, we can't help but be role models. But when you're commenting on the news and you're the guru live streamer blogger, it's really easy to slip into conspiracy theories because you have to give the audience something they can't get elsewhere. So how do you give the audience consistently something they can't get elsewhere? You, oh, this is nice. I wonder if we can keep reception down here. Right? You can't just give them what's in the New York Times, the Washington Post, or the Sydney Morning Herald. Right? You have to give them something that they can't get on the ABC News. Right? So the easy way to do that is to read meaning into all sorts of events where meaning is not there. Right? So that's conspiracy theories, where you're reading meaning into events where meaning is not there. You're being romantic, you're reading more into an event than is really there. That's like a Richard Spencer, it's consistently reading more into an event than is really there. And that's the overwhelming temptation if you're going to be a live streamer commenting on the news, is to read meaning into events where meaning's not really there. Now, the alternative, if you're commenting on the news, not to slip into conspiracy theories, but to understand how the news works and what its weaknesses are. So news is a business designed to attract eyeballs to then sell products to people. So the news, people who make news generally don't want to get sued. So they have a strong preference for bureaucratic arrived at decisions. So a legal decision, the police department says, the health commissioner says. So news tends to be very strong unofficial sources. And so sometimes the official sources are accurate, but often unofficial sources are far more accurate. So if you can get good unofficial sources about what's going on, then you can consistently produce insights into the world around you without falling for bogus conspiracy theories. And you can give something that's worthy and valid. So often the people's subjective experience is more powerful and more important than, say, bureaucratically arrived at pronouncements. So bureaucratically arrived at pronouncements, sometimes they're accurate, but just as often they're inaccurate. And when you recognize that bureaucracies and experts have biases and incentives to react in one way or another, then I think as a commentator you can give some insights without falling into conspiracy theories. So recognizing that the news media is a business, it's trying to sell eyeballs, trying to sell ads, therefore has an incentive to hype the news and make it as dramatic as possible. Right? So the incentives of the people who bring you the news are not the same as your incentives. The incentives of the people bringing you the news is to hold your attention. What's the easiest way to hold your attention is to try and make something as dramatic as possible, as important as possible, to, in all likelihood, read far more into events than is really there, to try to see nationwide meaning in the Ahmaud Arbery trial, this represents hope for American racial struggle, right? That's reading far more into the event than is really there. So recognizing that bureaucracies are fallible, that they often respond to incentives, and recognizing those incentives enables you to kind of decode the news. So I'm a big fan of the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, but I recognize that these are bureaucracies, that they very much want the respect of their peers, that they operate under incentives that are not the same as you and me, and therefore we can decode the news. Recognizing, for example, that different peoples have different gifts, and so that if there's a teacher's test in New York City where different groups have different results, that doesn't mean that the test is racially biased. It may mean that different groups have different commitments and abilities and disciplines with regard to learning. So that's an obvious area where the news media generally fears to tread. So Steve Saylor, I think, is someone who consistently provides useful, insightful, valuable, often critically important insights into the news just by recognizing statistical patterns and recognizing that not all groups have identical gifts, and recognizing that bureaucratically arrived at decisions not necessarily more accurate than unofficial experiences and realizations and insights. That you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to be a live streamer, though it helps. All right, guys, don't be racist.